Chosen ones, did you know that there are signs that appear before the best phase of your life begins? Many times, they go unnoticed because they are not accompanied by major external happenings. On the contrary, everything around seems the same, but something inside you begins to change. It's as if a new version of you is about to be born. These signs are not magical nor the result of luck. They are part of a deep internal process in which the mind, emotions, and your essence align to make space for a new stage. Recognizing them is important to not confuse transformation with crisis or evolution with loss. You may feel that interests change, relationships drift apart, or even that a certain discomfort begins to grow. This may feel uncomfortable, but it is precisely the body and mind signaling that something needs to be renewed. It is the moment to listen more to what comes from within and less to external noise. By understanding these signs, you can deal better with changes, seize the opportunities that arise, and strengthen your confidence to move forward. It is an invitation to realize that your life is transformed not only by external events, but by what you build inside yourself. If this topic makes sense to you and you want to learn how to identify these signs, follow the channel now and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any content, and you also help others receive messages like this. Let's together recognize when life is about to enter your best phase. There are moments in life when we feel that something is about to change, but we cannot pinpoint exactly what. It is as if the surrounding scenery remains the same, but internally, a silent transformation is taking place. This type of feeling is often the precursor of a new phase, a phase more aligned with who we really are. These transitions do not come with special effects or radical changes overnight. They manifest as subtle adjustments, internal shifts that prepare the ground for something bigger. Often, the signs present themselves as discomfort, doubts, and changes in interest. Because they are not obvious, they can be confused with crises or demotivation. What actually happens is that our inner self begins to question old patterns. Thoughts and emotions that once made sense lose their strength, opening space for new perspectives. It is a process of deep reorganization, which occurs from the inside out. When this begins, the external life may not yet reflect the change, but the seed of transformation is already planted. During this process, it is common to feel a certain estrangement. Places that were comfortable stop making sense. Conversations that used to be encouraging begin to sound empty, and old desires no longer motivate as before. These sensations are not signs that something is wrong, but indications that your inner world is gaining a new form. Depth psychology, especially the view of Carl Jung, explains that before we reach our best version, we go through a phase of internal adjustment. He called this path the individuation process, a natural movement toward becoming who we really are, integrating light and shadow, virtues and imperfections. And like any genuine change, it begins in a quiet way. These signals are not always comfortable. Often they arrive as small ruptures. The distancing of people, the loss of interest in certain activities, the need to be more with oneself. It is as if life slowly removes what no longer fits with your new frequency, opening space for more meaningful experiences. The curious thing is that when this happens, we tend to seek rational explanations for everything. We want to understand why friendships drift apart or why we no longer find joy in certain routines. But most often, there is no single logical cause. It is an energetic and emotional process happening in parallel to what is visible. By recognizing these signs, you gain a chance to go through this transition with more awareness. Instead of resisting changes, you can learn to embrace them. This does not mean it will be easy or quick, but it does mean you can avoid unnecessary suffering, understanding that each stage has its purpose. This new phase is not about becoming someone else, but about approaching your essence. It is about leaving behind what no longer serves and embracing what is more aligned with your true self. For some, this journey is marked by spiritual growth. For others, by deep emotional and psychological changes. In the upcoming topics, we will explore clear signs that indicate this transformation has already begun. These signs do not come to scare or create anxiety, but to remind us that often life reorganizes internally before showing concrete results. And recognizing this is essential to moving forward with more confidence toward what is to come. The first sign that something bigger is about to happen in your life is usually silent and often disconcerting. A constant discomfort with no apparent cause. It is not physical pain nor deep sadness, but a restlessness that seems to take up space inside you. It is as if your soul is saying that something needs to change, even though you do not yet know what. This discomfort can manifest in various forms. It can be dissatisfaction with routine, the feeling that everything is too samey, or a boredom that doesn't pass, even when doing activities that used to be enjoyable. In some cases, it arises as a desire to seek something different, though you do not have clarity about exactly what you are looking for. What actually happens is that part of who you are is ready to grow, but remains bound to old structures. It's like wearing clothes that no longer fit. For a while you try to adjust to them, but there comes a moment when the discomfort is inevitable. Life then begins to press you to move. In depth psychology, this phenomenon is understood as an invitation to expand consciousness. Carl Jung described that when we do not face internal aspects that need to be integrated, they manifest externally as repetitive situations, crises, or discomfort. It's the unconscious calling us to a deeper dialogue with ourselves. It is common in this period to feel lost or confused. Many people interpret this state as a sign of failure or a lack of direction, but it is actually the beginning of a new cycle. Just as the earth needs to be stirred before new seeds can be sown, your inner self is being prepared to receive new ideas, opportunities, and connections. The unexplained discomfort also serves as a warning to step out of autopilot. When everything is done mechanically, without presence or reflection, we end up distancing ourselves from who we really are. This discomfort then arises to make us stop, look, and question. What do I really want? What no longer makes sense to me? Many people resist this call, trying to fill the void with distractions, shopping, overworking, social media, meaningless commitments. This can even provide temporary relief, but it does not solve the root of the problem. The discomfort only disappears when you start to listen to what it is trying to tell you and take actions to align your life with your essence. Facing this sensation requires courage. It is looking inward and recognizing that perhaps it is time to change direction, abandon old habits, or detach from ideas that no longer serve. It can be uncomfortable, but that is exactly what opens space for new possibilities and for the more authentic phase of your life. Therefore, if you are feeling a persistent discomfort, do not ignore it or see it as an enemy. It is a messenger, warning that the transformation has already begun. Accepting this message is the first step to shaping the life you want. This discomfort is, in fact, the beginning of an awakening, and that is a good sign. The second sign that a new phase is approaching is the loss of interest in activities, people, or goals that used to be vital to you. It's as if the colors that painted your day-to-day life began to fade. What used to bring enthusiasm now no longer awakens emotion. And as strange as it may seem, this is a good sign. This change does not mean that something is wrong with you, nor that life has lost its meaning. It indicates that your priorities are reorganizing. Old parts of your identity begin to dissolve, creating space for something more aligned with who you really are. It is a natural process, but it can be uncomfortable because it challenges your comfort zone. Imagine you are in a house where you have always lived, but which over time becomes too small for what you need. Change is inevitable, but before that, you begin to feel disconnected from that space. The same happens internally. The interest that leaves is just a warning that the cycle has ended and another is about to begin. In psychology, this process can be compared to a symbolic death, when parts of your personality cease to exist to make way for new ones. Carl Jung explained that, for the new to emerge, the old needs to be left behind. It is like a snake shedding its skin. The release is necessary for growth. This loss of interest can also manifest in relationships. People with whom you had affinity may no longer awaken the same connection. Conversations that once seemed rich now sound superficial. This does not mean you are becoming cold or antisocial, but rather that your energy is seeking deeper and more meaningful interactions. Often, this phase is confused with apathy or even depression, but there is an important difference. In apathy, everything loses meaning, and the person feels powerless to continue. In this transitional process, despite the loss of interest in the old, there is a silent expectation for something new. It's as if you are clearing space for what is to come. The challenge here is not to cling to what has already fulfilled its role. Forcing interest in something that no longer resonates with your essence is like insisting on reading a book you have already finished. You may reread some pages, but the story will not change. It is better to seek new chapters with plots more compatible with your current phase. It is also important to welcome this moment with patience. The new does not always appear immediately after the end of the old. Sometimes there is a gap, a kind of neutral zone where you feel lost. This pause is necessary for your mind and heart to prepare for the next step without carrying unnecessary weights. Therefore, if you have noticed that things once essential no longer spark the same brightness, see this as a sign of evolution. It's life saying that there is something else waiting for you, something that will fit better with the person you are becoming. This letting go is an internal cleansing so that your best phase has space to bloom. The third sign that a new phase is approaching is the natural change in your relationships. People who were always present begin to drift away, and this happens without big fights or arguments. It's as if connections dissolve silently. At first it may seem like abandonment or bad luck, but in fact it's alignment. When you begin to change internally, your emotional frequency also shifts. Interests, values, and priorities undergo adjustments, and with that, people who previously shared the same rhythm no longer find as much harmony. It's not a judgment about who is better or worse, but a natural process in which each person goes in the direction that resonates most with their own essence. This distancing can be uncomfortable, especially if it involves old friendships or close family relationships. There is a sense of loss and sometimes even guilt. However, it's important to understand that some bonds only make sense at certain stages of life. When the phase changes, the need for certain connections also changes, opening space for others more compatible. This transition in relationships is not only about people leaving, but also about those who arrive. New friendships, professional contacts, and even unexpected meetings begin to emerge, bringing freshness and new perspectives. It's like changing the lenses of a pair of glasses. Suddenly, you can see more clearly who really matches your new way of living. Depth psychology points out that times of personal growth require periods of isolation or retreat, Carl Jung mentioned that the encounter with the self, the most authentic core of our psyche, requires distance from external noise. This solitude is not empty. It serves so that we can hear our own inner voice clearly. During this phase, it's common to feel displaced in environments that were previously comfortable. Parties, talking groups, and usual places may start to feel pointless. This estrangement is not a sign that you have become antisocial, but that you are seeking connections that nourish your new phase, rather than keeping you bound to what has passed. Accepting these changes is essential. Resisting and trying to maintain all relationships at any cost can cause wear and hinder your own growth. When a cycle of coexistence ends, opening space for new bonds is a way to respect both your journey and the journeys of the other people involved. On the other hand, it's also important to recognize and value those who stay by your side during the transition. Not everyone drifts away. Some adapt and continue to be part of your life, accompanying your changes. These connections tend to strengthen as they resist transformations and mold themselves along with you. Therefore, if you are noticing significant changes in your network of relationships, see this as part of the process. Life is adjusting the setting so that, in your new phase, you are surrounded by people who support and encourage your growth. After all, genuine connections flourish when there is true resonance, and your best phase deserves exactly that. Another powerful sign that a new phase is coming is the increase in coincidences that seem impossible to be just by chance. You think of a person, and they send a message on the same day. A book you had never seen falls into your hands and answers exactly the doubt you had been carrying. These events draw attention because they seem tailor-made for you. Depth psychology, through Carl Jung, calls this synchronicity. Events that have no cause and effect link, but are connected by a deep, symbolic meaning. In other words, it's not the why that matters, but the for what. These episodes function as small signals that you are aligned with a more authentic path. It's as if life is talking to you in a subtle way, using people, phrases, songs, or situations as coded messages. By paying attention to these occurrences, you begin to notice patterns and feel that there is something greater organizing the events. This generates confidence to move forward, even when the direction is not yet completely clear. Many people report that these synchronicities appear more frequently at moments of decision or change. When you are about to start a new project, move to a different city, or end a cycle, the coincidences intensify. It's as if the universe is leaving clues to confirm that you are on the right track. However, to notice these signals, it is necessary to be attentive and receptive. Daily rush and excess distractions can cause these messages to go unnoticed. A mindful gaze and more attentive listening to the day-to-day details are essential to recognize when something seemingly ordinary carries a special meaning for your journey. These events do not replace conscious choices, nor do they dispense planning. They are complements, like lighthouses that illuminate stretches of the path, but they do not replace the act of walking. Blindly trusting coincidences without practical action can lead to frustration. The ideal is to use these clues as reinforcement of the direction you are already building. Some simple examples help to understand. You are thinking about changing your field of work, and, in a few days, you meet 3 people who work exactly in that field, all bringing information or opportunities. Or, after dreaming of a specific place, you receive an unexpected invite to visit it. These experiences do not force anything. They merely confirm something that is already in motion inside you. When synchronicity becomes more frequent, it brings a feeling of connection with something greater. You start to feel that you are not alone and that there is an invisible network collaborating for your growth. This feeling is not only comforting, but also strengthens the confidence in the decisions you are about to make. Therefore, if you've started to notice coincidences that seem like personal messages, do not ignore them. Note them, reflect, and observe how they fit into your trajectory. Often these signals are the way life finds to warn you that your new phase has already begun, even if you are still taking the first steps to live it fully. One of the most challenging signs that your best phase is near is the reemergence of fears and insecurities you believed you had overcome. Suddenly, issues that seemed buried come back to the surface. Old apprehensions, doubts, and situations that recall past experiences resurface, often in an intense way. This can give the mistaken impression that you are regressing. In truth, what is happening is exactly the opposite. When we are about to make a growth leap, the mind brings to the surface everything that has not yet been fully resolved. It's as if the unconscious says, before moving forward, we need to clear this space. These contents do not return to weaken you, but to be finally integrated and healed. Think of it as a house being renovated. Before painting the walls and replacing the furniture, it is necessary to remove debris and repair cracks. Likewise, your mind and heart need to review old issues so that the new can enter without obstacles. This return is an opportunity to deal with wounds more maturely and consciously. Marks. It could be childhood trauma, a professional failure, or an emotional disappointment. When they come back to the surface, it is not for you to relive the pain, but for you to have the chance to look at it with the emotional resources you have developed over time. Carl Jung said that everything repressed in the unconscious strengthens and sooner or later returns to be faced. That is why, in periods of transformation, it is common for the past to knock at the door. This is the psyche's way of ensuring that you are free from inner bonds before moving on to the next stage. The challenge is not to be scared or give up in the face of this process. Instead of viewing the return of fears as a sign of weakness, see it as proof that you are ready to deal with them head-on. Earlier, you might have lacked strength or clarity. Now you have more awareness and maturity to do differently. This confrontation can manifest in various ways. You might find yourself facing a situation that recalls an old failure again, but this time you respond calmly. You might encounter people from the past with whom you had conflicts and feel that anger no longer carries the same weight. These moments show that healing is happening, even if it still hurts. Another important point is that this process rarely happens in isolation. It is usually accompanied by other signs of change, such as synchronicities and the distancing of people, because everything is part of the same movement. Your life is being reorganized to receive something new, and this requires letting go of the emotional residues that were left along the way. We have reached the point where all the signs come together, the awakening to your new phase. Perhaps looking back, you will realize that every discomfort, every distancing, every coincidence, and even the return of fears had a purpose. Everything was part of a larger process, carefully orchestrated so that you could move closer to who you really are and to what truly matters. This transition is rarely comfortable. It asks for letting go, courage, and openness to the unknown. It is like crossing a bridge whose destination on the other side is not visible. Yet each step strengthens the confidence that something grand is coming. Not because the world out there will suddenly change, but because you are already changing inside. In this process, you realize that you do not need permission to live fully. Situations that seem to be blocks become lessons. Losses reveal themselves as open space for new opportunities. It is an internal reconfiguration that is reflected in the external world in an almost inevitable way. Your energy shifts, and with it, the experiences you attract also change. Another important point is to understand that this new phase is not a fixed destination. It is a state of consciousness, something that is built and renewed daily. It is possible to enter and exit it according to the choices you make, the thoughts you cultivate, and the relationships you maintain. It is not magic. It is a commitment to your own growth. And yes, there will be challenges. No stage of life is free from difficulties. But the difference is that now you feel more prepared to face them. Instead of fleeing from problems, you confront them as opportunities to learn. Rather than getting lost in others' expectations, you are guided by what resonates with your truth. The new phase also does not mean being always happy or motivated. It involves moments of rest, withdrawal, and reflection. But even on the hardest days, there is a foundation of peace and purpose that wasn't present before. This sense of alignment is what makes all the difference. You know you are on the right path, even without seeing the final destination. Now, looking at the signs, the discomfort, the loss of interest in the old, the changes in relationships, the synchronicities, and the return of fears, you can understand that they were not obstacles, but invitations. Invitations to live more consciously, more aligned, and more true. Invitations to finally stop postponing the life you desire. Therefore, as you close this journey of reflection, I leave you with an invitation. Observe your surroundings and what lies within you. See which signs are present today, and ask yourself how you can honor them. And if this content touched your heart, comment here which one of these signs you have felt recently. Your experience can inspire and encourage others who are also awakening.